Deathworlders to the Extreme by Aquashark. Summary. You would think that life had already done enough to Shinzo Itoshi. Having two criminal parents that abandon you the first chance they got can make you think that. Anyway, turns out that's not the case when he gets abducted by aliens and finds himself stuck on another planet with an injured alien. Yeah. When he'd gazed at the stars and proclaimed he'd one day explore the universe, Hitoshi did not mean he wanted to get kidnapped by aliens. He meant he wanted to be an astronaut, maybe an engineer, maybe even the first person on Mars if he really pushed it. Of course, though, life rarely has a habit of doing things anybody wanted, and seemed very much prefer monkey pawing anything it touched. Or at least that was the situation for Hitoshi. Despite being abandoned when he was barely a toddler, his parentage was not a mystery for him or anyone else he might meet. The top crime lords of the country who didn't hesitate to claim him as their son, even when they left him to rot in the arms of the system. Of course, kids and adults alike didn't take kindly to his presence. Of a kid whose blood was so seeped in death, it was a miracle none of his bullies had done more than send him to the hospital in broken bones. Not that he ever got particularly good treatment anyways. It was a miracle. He had gotten away with nothing more than permanent nighttime paranoia from the amount of times he had to fight off some kids trying to attack him or steal his stuff in the middle of the night. As if it wasn't enough, Hitoshi just had to have purple hair. The result of a rare mutation that more and more people seem to have, even if the mutation itself could be explained as nothing but dye. Not the case for Hitoshi. Having come into the system with purple hair, it was specifically noted that this was a result of permanent biological mutation, which meant that those in such a more rare gene kids were more likely to pick him and try to subject him to whatever psychological abuse they planned. From the amount of foster parents Hitoshi had met like that, he could have just taken down over half of such traffickers. But no, the police didn't trust to keep destined for crime. Ugh. Like he said, life had it out for Hitoshi, and it certainly wasn't the exception when he was abducted by aliens. Congrats, we're not alone in the universe. That would have been nice to know before, while wandering through the woods for an insomnia-fueled walk. Hitoshi found himself suddenly shot with a thin, feather-like dart that sunk into the skin of his shoulder, and delivered a faint numbness into the shot area. For a moment, Hitoshi stared, dumbfounded, at the red dart before visions of gangs rivaling his parents trying to get a little vengeance popped into his head. Trying to hurt him to get to his so-called parents, trying to hurt him for the sake of hurting him. Run! Run, you idiot! Hitoshi bolted just as a streak of red struck the spot where he stood, only moments before, and pushed himself harder as another dart lodged itself into the back of his cap. Spreading numbness, not unlike the one from earlier, which now felt, or not felt, began to spread through his arms. Two more struck at his back, and Hitoshi crashed through the undergrowth, and in a way unlike his usual swiftness, and desperately, Hitoshi dislodged the dart in his shoulder, only for three more to stick into his other arm. As the numbness somehow spread faster than before, sending plumes of nausea and exhaustion through Hitoshi's body. What kind of poison is this? Hitoshi stumbled over a root and caught himself on the tree next to him. Pushing off the tree to gain traction, he set off again to escape his attackers. The one thump of the something small hitting the tree only furthered Hitoshi's resolve as he ducked and weaved through the trees and branches, dodging darts as he did so. Again Hitoshi's foot caught on the root, but this time he did so he felt his ankle twist sharply. Not enough to severely injure him, but certainly enough to send him tumbling down over a small ledge to the forest floor. Hitoshi spat out a leaf and then tried unsuccessfully to get to his feet. His arm already felt like jelly, and his legs were entirely numb with the exception of his ankle, which sent waves of pain through Hitoshi's body. Two more darts nailed Hitoshi in the back, and this time as numbness spread, Hitoshi found he couldn't even raise his his arm to fight off his attackers, whose shadow approached him from the darkness. Cosplayers? I'm getting kidnapped by a bunch of cultist cosplayers, thought Hitoshi. And indignant as two tall men wearing surprisingly realistic bird costumes that fit snugly over their thin bodies broke through the underbrush. Twin guns loaded with an array of darts in their glove claw hands. What, too scared to show your own face? Hitoshi weakly taunted as one of his kidnappers pulled out a weird, silly putty-looking rope, while the other kept his gun loaded with darts pointed at Hitoshi. "Rope guy," said something the gun guy, costume mouth moving as he did so. "Animatronic?" As soon as he began to tie up the limp boy, though Hitoshi had no idea what he was saying. Whatever it was so foreign that if the other didn't reply in Hitoshi would have thought it had been complete and utter gibberish. The rope felt odd. It felt like a weirdly solid silly putty. And if Hitoshi had more strength, he could have probably ripped it out of it with ease. Gun Guy gestured at Hitoshi, said something to his partner, and Hitoshi had lolled back and forth as Rope Guy shook him like a rag doll. Oi, careful, don't damage the goods, Hitoshi imagined Gun Guy to say as Gun Guy slapped Rope Guy up the head with his gun. Surprisingly gently, actually. Huh, weird. Hitoshi yelped as he found himself thrown over a shoulder of Rope Guy and dangled with his head swinging above the ground. Blood rushed to his head, and Hitoshi fought back the urge to vomit before deciding that, frankly, he deserved a bit of revenge. Sadly, he never got the chance to puke over his captors because after a few minutes, the two cosplay kidnappers began to argue. A lot. They pushed each other and shouted and caused Hitoshi to swing back and forth as they did so until suddenly the Rope Guy decided to forego holding into Hitoshi in favor of punching his partner. Hitoshi blacked out as soon as his head hit the ground. He felt his heart pound through his head as he woke up, and Hitoshi leaned to the side and puked out his nausea as the ache in his head rang with every heartbeat. His ankle ached, not so badly that we need a doctor, but enough that putting any form of weight on it would be unpleasant. The cell was dark and gray, and Hitoshi found as he hesitantly opened his eyes and examined the cell. It was odd. Other than something shaped vaguely like a toilet in the corner, there was nothing to fill the space. But Hitoshi himself and the blank walls were as filthy and the empty barrier to the world outside. Other than the door, of course, which consisted of multiple metal bars that hummed gently with the telltale sound of electricity. Hitoshi blinked. This was not what he would have expected to wake up to. Hitoshi sat up and gave himself a quick look over and found that other than the pain and injuries he noted himself when he first woke up, he felt perfectly normal. Even the numbness from the darts had faded entirely. Hesitantly, Hitoshi crawled towards the bars and pulled off his shoe on his good leg. Nothing but static came from the light zapping that the bars offered. As a result, the full length of the shoe toughing it, so Hitoshi gave the bar a quick poke with his finger. Like the sharp zap of static, the bars sent an unpleasant buzz through Hitoshi's hand that hurt not much more than the shock of static he played with on the slides. Upon further examination, Hitoshi discovered the metal bars to have a slightly spongy texture, and when he squeezed it with his hand, it bended under his grip. "What kind of security is this?" he muttered, ignoring the static as he bent the bar back into place. Hitoshi pulled on his shoe and scooted away from the bars and into the corner, where he'd woken up before pulling off his other shoe and pulling down his sock to take a look at his ankle. It was swelled only slightly when he pressed a finger to his side. Hitoshi hissed as a sharp pain spread through where his finger had poked and the wound experimentally. Hitoshi stood up with only his arms and good leg and tried to put the weight on his twisted ankle. Sharp waves of pain bloomed from the afflicted area, but Hitoshi could stand. Though that wouldn't help much when he was going to escape. Hitoshi crouched and pulled on his shoe again as he pounded his head, returned the severity with his thoughts. Hitoshi grunted and curled up in the corner. I'll sleep off the pain. I'll sleep off the pain. Maybe wait until they give me the food. Wait until they give me food. Then escape so I'm at my max, he thought. Weird kidnappers, though ineffective darts, weak rope, and bird costumes. Unprofessional kidnappers, bendable bars. It's like they're perfectly setting themselves up for failure. A light chill permeated the air of the cell, and Hitoshi curled in on himself, tugging the mouth of his hoodie closed. Either way, it doesn't look I'll have much trouble escaping. With how dumb they are, they're probably just a prank or scare tactic. That's the end of Chapter 1 by the name of Kidnappers Are Incompetent. Now starting Chapter 2, Nope. Due to how short the chapters are, I might have multiple in one. Thank you. Summary. Hitoshi realized something about his captivity and he doesn't like it. The second time Hitoshi awoke, it was to the sound of reverberating footsteps on metal floor. Hitoshi groaned and burrowed further into his hoodie, pulling the tight strings that had come loose during the night. Seriously, did these guys have any idea how precious sleep is to an insomniac? At the very least, his migraine had run its course during the night, and the pain in his ankle had faded to a dull throb, leaving him with the relief that if he had to, he could run. Though it wouldn't be preferable. If things get bad, I'll run, Hitoshi promised himself as his footfalls came closer, approaching his cell. Still curled up, Hitoshi listened carefully. It sounded like there was 2, maybe 3 people approaching, though the sound of their feet sounded off. With every footfall, Hitoshi heard the faint scratching like knives on concrete, and as voices began to accompany the footfalls, Hitoshi noticed the gibberish sounded just like the odd language Hitoshi kidnapper spoke in. Soon the footfall and voices came so close that Hitoshi couldn't help but peek out at them from in between his arms. And when the big-faced guards arrived at his cell and gazed at its inhabitants, Hitoshi couldn't help but snort. Seriously? They're creeping up the cosplay? Dang, that's dedication there. Each of the men wore costumes of varying shades that went. The next step was some sort of article of clothing over top of them. The first costume had sharp white feathers and wore a white hooded robe that draped to the floor. The second had yellow feathers that burst in all of directions and black police-like armor. The third and leading one was particular with dual colors in his feathers, in which his head was purple with the pluming feathers billowing out at the bottom of his neck, while the rest of his body was green and covered with black and white suit-like armor. The green and purple leader of the group was also the only one with golden chains and red jewelry decorating his beak, and as he spoke, the jewelry swung with his very nasally word. Though Hitoshi understood none of it, considering it was still in that weird gibberish language. Grandly, or at least that's what the bird cultist seemed to think, the leading bird man gestured at Hitoshi as he spoke to 2 of subordinates, before turning to Hitoshi and continuing in what Hitoshi assumed was some sort of kidnapper's monologue, which was still in gibberish. Hey, I get what you're going for, the bird thing, but seriously, could you not? That purple and green clash horribly with each other, and the reason I don't go around dressed like a bush, and not to mention that speaking language that your prisoner doesn't understand is fine, but and dandy until you gotta talk to them, taunted Hitoshi, interrupting the head honko of the trio, who squawked, like literally squawked, before turning to the other 2 with a harsh voice as they cowered before them. Yep, definitely the head honcho. The yellow feather one seemed to try and say something soothing to his boss, but found himself sprawled on the ground after the black-suited man threw him to the floor. The leading bird man ordered something to his subordinates, and the white one lifted a gun, just like the one that was used to shoot Itoshi earlier, and pointed at the prisoner with a sharp word. Itoshi eyed the handle of the gun that the alien gripped as his arm raised above his head in universal silent surrender. Best to play along for now. Best to not play around for now. I just hope they don't try to get me to join their bird cult. The yellow feather guard stumbled up from the floor, his suit talons scratching along the metal as he fumbled with the key and opened the door. He strolled inside and barked something at Itoshi that he assumed was an order to stand up. So he did. Slowly and painfully, but he did. Sharp claws pinched Hitoshi's throat as the guard grabbed him by the neck, and the other guard lowered his gun, replacing him with a rope that was carefully looped around Hitoshi's hands like makeshift handcuffs. Best not to let them know that I could easily break free of this. They marched Hitoshi along a desolate gray hallway lined with nothing but cages, some of which were filled with creatures Hitoshi could never hope to name, and some that looked like cosplayers who had too much fun with their makeup and rushed Hitoshi along, even as Hitoshi's ankle sent sparks of pain up and down his leg. At the very least, his neck was no longer being restrained by the yellow-feathered guard, so remained uncomfortably close. What's up with that? He thought, disturbed as they passed the cage holding an ultra-thin creature that skittered across its cage on 6 razor-thin paws like legs. Its 3 heads snapped randomly at the air. If it wasn't for the fact that his kidnappers hadn't bothered to speak in anything but gibberish, Hitoshi would have asked what was up with the cosplays and costumes. Hitoshi froze when they turned to the next hallway. Along one side of the hallway were long trails of windows, and presented on the outside, space. Outer space. Are those screens? The white guard pushed at Hitoshi, but he refused to continue in favor of rushing up to the closest screen window and pressing his cheek against it. Hitoshi hissed at the cold before freezing as he was roughly grabbed. I'm in space? Abruptly, he turned to his kidnappers, looking at the leader in the eye. Then, those are not costumes. Are they aliens? I was abducted by aliens. He stared increasingly at the increasingly aggravated leader in the eye, so the sharp sting and telltale numbness of the dart in his cap penetrated Hitoshi's senses. Once again, the yellow-feathered guy, alien, grabbed Hitoshi by the neck, yelling something in their language before shoving him along the hallway of the spaceship. This time, Hitoshi didn't resist and didn't slow down. A feat helped by the fact the dart had dulled the pain of his ankle and let the aliens lead him to wherever they wanted to go. Whoa, aliens! The alien leader clacked something, and abruptly Hitoshi was shoved down a separate hallway, the only doorway existed at the end of the hall into a dark room. The white alien called something out, and the room was illuminated, revealing a white wall room filled with 2 distinct things, a bed and a collection of knives and scalpels. Hitoshi's heart leapt in his throat, and he choked in horror. Oh my god, they're going to dissect me. The yellow-feathered alien shoved him farther down the hall. They're going to dissect me. Bisect me. I don't know if they're just misspelling that. They're going to bisect me. The leading alien said something to the white alien. They're going to bisect me with more strength than Hitoshi had ever thought he had. He flung away the yellow-feathered alien. Just as another dart stuck into his skin. Hitoshi backed up against the wall and dodged another dart before lunging towards the white-feathered alien and elbowing him across the beak, breaking his bindings in the process. The alien fell with a crack. Mind in a frenzy, Hitoshi snatched the gun from the white alien's hand and pointed at the leader with a snarl. The leader froze, staring at Toshi with eyes with a wide, horrified gaze. The dart lodged itself in the leader's neck, and his eyes immediately lowered to the back of his head as he fell limp on the floor. The spreading numbness only furthered Hitoshi's resolve as he thundered down the hallway, a feat only possible because of the numbers that strangled away the pain of his twisted ankle. The first alien he came across was also yellow-feathered. Wearing a gray jumpsuit, his eyes widened the moment they met Hitoshi and closed just as fast as Hitoshi shot him with a dart. Hitoshi came across more and more guards and aliens and shot every one of them before they had the chance to raise the alarm, until he ran out of darts. At that point, Hitoshi had run through several hallways and left behind several silent bodies, and expected to leave behind some more when he aimed the gun at a pair of green-feathered aliens, only for an empty click to leave the barrel. Hitoshi stared at the gun and pulled the trigger again and again, only for an empty click to sound every time. The two aliens glanced at each other before leaping towards Hitoshi. Blood rushed through Hitoshi's ear as he ducked, letting the two aliens overshoot, and he felt his heart pound as he lunged at them and punched. The alien's beak crumbled under his fist, and Hitoshi and the other aliens both stared at the damage for a moment in shock as the injured aliens fell to the floor. Mine rushed as suddenly as the other alien bolted, leaving Hitoshi and the injured alien in his wake. Hitoshi cursed and threw the gun to the floor instead of opting to continue on his way instead of following the alien. He couldn't spare any more time. Now, however, he came across an alien. Hitoshi found that just one punch to the chest or head was enough to take them down, and couldn't continue with an increasingly numb body. Just as Hitoshi managed to make his way to an empty room filled with nothing but odd doors and keypads, a shrill alarm went off, making Hitoshi leap with fright, and land hard against the keypad that lit blue and opened the door beside it. Inside was a small room with a large plush seat, multiple computer screens, and a container secured against the wall. An office? Hitoshi dove into the office and shoved what looked to be the close button. The moment he heard multiple scratching footfalls reverberate outside the room, his body was almost entirely numb, and he was tired. Not a good combination for a big fight, even if he would be easy. Hitoshi crouched behind one of the containers, covering his mouth and stilling his breath as he listened to the footfall. "Don't look in here," he prayed. Soon the footfalls passed, and Hitoshi breathed a deep sigh of relief, uncurling out from behind the container and popping down into the seat for a breather. Red lights flashed throughout the room, and Hitoshi found himself bound to the chair with ropes far stronger than the ones he'd broken from earlier. He screamed, and suddenly the monotonous sound of alien words being lifted off the room. "A countdown? A countdown?" wondered Hitoshi, before a sudden realization hit his heart scream. "I'm in an escape pod?" Hitoshi struggled against the bonds and reached for one of the screens, but it was no use, and faster than he could scream, the distant shape of a beak-shaped ship grew smaller and smaller until it was nothing but a pinprick in the sky. Okay, notes. Sorry if it sounds bad. I actually just scalded my tongue on hot chocolate because the cup felt warm, but the liquid was burning hot. But anyway, thank you for standing by. My speech impediment probably showed through during this when I read out loud a lot. So thanks. I love this fic. This has been one of my favorite fics for over a year now, and I've reread it a lot of times. It's 2,000 hold on thing. It's 200,000 words, and it's just one of my favorite fics out there. So yeah. Thank you.